In our show following Rishi Sunak's spring statement, we showed you this picture. Rishi Sunak filling up his Kia Rio with petrol. He's smiling, we presume, because the fuel he's pumping is now 5p per litre cheaper thanks to his mini budget, though it's still around 40p more expensive than it was last year. Anyway, as we revealed on last week's show, this turned out not to be Rishi's car. Rather, it was borrowed specifically for this photo op from a Sainsbury's member of staff. Fast forward to Monday, when Sunak was grilled by the Commons Treasury Committee, and Labour's Siobhan McDonough asked this.
I just wanted to let the Chancellor know that the cost in filling up my Kia Picanto has gone up from £30 to £54 in the time I've owned it. Mr Sunak, did you face a similar fuel hike in the time you've owned your Rio?
How long have you owned your car?
About 3 years.
Oh, mine I think is probably older than that.
Is it a Picanto? Is it a Rio?
No,
Picanto?
Actually, we have a Golf.
Okay.
So,
but you fill up other people's cars now?
Yes, actually, he was an employee at Sainsbury's.
So according to Sunak, the family car is a Golf that's more than 3 years old. How humble for a family worth hundreds of millions. Except the Sunak's lifestyle is not humble, and their 3-year-old Golf is not their only vehicle. The Mirror reports the Sunaks in fact own 4 cars, and sources claim the Richmond MP's fleet includes a high-spec Range Rover. Prices for a new Range Rover start at £94,000. That's triple the median annual salary of a worker in Britain. Sources say he also owns a top-of-the-range Lexus, perhaps something like this, which costs 57 grand. And the Sunaks also own a top-of-the-range BMW. BMWs start at £30,000 and top models can cost well over 100 grand. It goes without saying, all 4 cars are much pricier than the Kia Sunak posed with after his spring statement. Rio's retail from £12,000. So, why do the Sunaks need so many cars? Well, they've got to spread them across their multiple houses. The Range Rover is for Sunak's North Yorkshire constituency mansion. You can see it pictured here. It's worth £1.5 million and is set in 12 acres of Yorkshire countryside. The Lexus and BMW are further afield in Santa Monica, California. No newspapers have published details of the Sunak's California apartment, but this $4.5 million condo is registered in the name of Rishi's wife. Finally, we assume the Golf is stationed in London. Here the Sunaks reside in 11 Downing Street, but they also own this £7 million 5-bedroom house in nearby Kensington. It's all a long way from filling up your Rio at Sainsbury's.
I was thinking back actually to last week when Sunak was on LBC and he got that call from that mother of 2 children who was telling him about basically how this cost of living crisis is going to affect her ability to just make ends meet for her children, despite both her and her husband having reasonably well-paying jobs. And her voice was like shaking out of fear of what was to come. And Sunak, kind of like a robot, like his brain just went like, okay, so my PR people say that when someone says something like this to you, you start with a statement of empathy. So he just kind of robotically goes, oh, I'm so sorry you're going through that. You know, I have 2 kids too. And, you know, I can't imagine how hard it must be. And of course, it goes without saying Sunak doesn't have 2 kids in the way that regular people have 2 kids. It's a very different experience for him. But, oh, I cannot imagine how hard this must be for you. That is, of course, absolutely true. He can't imagine it, and he doesn't care to imagine it. Him and the people that he loves, him and the people that he cares about, that he feels affinity with, they are not only going to be insulated from the impacts of the cost of living crisis, but the suffering of working class people in the cost of living crisis is specifically engineered in order to protect those people that constitute Sunak's world. You know, this is the world of oil and gas executives who are having their profits protected by Sunak lifting the cap on energy bills. The world of corporate executives who are going to continue to enjoy tax subsidies, subsidies and tax breaks because the public are busy footing the bill of the crisis of the economy. And so that's how we need to understand these obscene displays of wealth that like no one, it is unjustifiable for anyone to have wealth like that, particularly when the vast majority of people in this world are facing intense material exploitation and suffering. So we need to understand that it's not just, oh, there's one rule for them and there's one rule for us. There's one rule for us so that it can be different rules for them. Our world is shrinking. Our lives are getting harder so that their lives can remain as easy as those pictures betrayed. And so it's incredibly important that stark contrast, that stark separation of worlds that we live in and that the Sunaks of the world live in. We have to make sure that as we are facing the toughest years to come when it comes to cost of living, that it's understood in those terms, that it's not just, one group of people happen to be having an okay time and everyone else is having a really bad time. So we're having a bad time so they can continue to have a great time. The cost of living crisis, it's not some kind of catastrophe that has just fallen from the sky out of context. It's engineered by political choices that have been made by Sunak and the political establishment that he represents.
I suppose a defense he could try. So, look, I am stinking rich. I'm filthy rich. Loads of cars. But do you know how much it costs to heat a mansion in Yorkshire? These are costs that most of you plebs cannot imagine. I might be worth £200 million. My wife might have $1 billion worth of shares in a company. But God, it takes a while to heat those rooms and then to keep them warm. This is incredibly expensive. We'll end on some good news, which is that Rishi Sunak's polling with the public has taken a dramatic nosedive. You can see here that Sunak had almost unbeatable approval ratings when he brought in the furlough scheme at the start of the pandemic. Since then, the shine has worn off. 51% of the public disapprove of Sunak, only 36% approve. Let's just hope that polling continues in that direction. This man needs to get what is coming to him. He's rich, he's out of touch. He has no compassion for the general population, as we, have seen from his spring statement. And I think by looking at his wealth, we can kind of see why. I think that's probably the explanation as to why he offered so little.